Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty incredible story about how one person's quest for logical, absolute truth took him from a place of total meaninglessness to a life of, well, unexpected and unwavering conviction. So, our story kicks off with a 17-year-old who, after burying himself in history and philosophy, basically saw the world through this really bleak Shakespearean lens. To him, life was just chaotic, it was pointless, it signified nothing. And look, this wasn't just some teenage angst. This was a deeply held philosophical conclusion he'd come to. But this feeling of meaninglessness didn't just leave him sitting there. Nope. Instead, it actually sparked this intense search for truth. And his first stop? The rich, ancient philosophical traditions of the East. So he started digging in, and he was really methodical about it. He began with the big picture of Indian philosophy, then fully embraced Hinduism, trying to find purpose through meditation, but he kept searching for a better way, and that eventually led him to the teachings of Buddha. But here's where his background as an electrical engineering student, well, it threw a real wrench in the works. He got completely stuck on this logical paradox right at the heart of Buddhism. Think about it. Is the desire to get rid of all your desires still a desire? For his analytical mind, that was a contradiction he just couldn't get past. It was like an infinite loop, and he refused to just ignore it. So intellectually, he was at a dead end. He'd hit a wall. But then, a chance encounter in December of 1977 was about to reignite his search in a way that would change absolutely everything. Get this. For 3 nights in a row, he finds himself in this passionate, super intense debate with a group of Christians. We're talking marathon sessions here, from 10 p.m. all the way to 4 in the morning. They covered everything from philosophy and logic to whether the Bible was historically reliable. But it was that third night, the one focused on the story of modern Israel, that would present the ultimate challenge. One of the key arguments they made was this dramatic contrast. On one side, you have leaders like Alexander the Great and Napoleon, right? Their followers died by the thousands just to build their earthly kingdoms. But on the other side, you have the claim about Jesus, a leader who died for his followers. This idea of a spiritual kingdom won through sacrifice, not conquest, that was a completely new paradigm for him. But the argument that really truly stopped him in his tracks came from the Old Testament book of Ezekiel. It was a 2,500-year-old prophecy about the dry bones of the Jewish nation, a nation that was scattered and for all intents and purposes dead, coming back to life. And this sequence of events became the core of his intellectual problem. He was challenged to explain it. How could an ancient text from around 570 BC possibly predict that the Jewish people would be reestablished as a nation in 1948 and then, just 19 years later, in 1967, emerge with a mighty army? The historical correlation was it was too specific for him to just brush aside. He didn't walk away from that debate a changed man, at least not in the way you might think. He left feeling intellectually cornered. He just couldn't refute their arguments. But his response wasn't conversion. Oh no, it was pure determination. He literally made a promise to himself right then and there to prove them all wrong. So this kicked off an entirely new quest. He set out on this mission to gather all the evidence he could find to debunk the claims he couldn't counter in that debate. But, as you can probably guess, this investigation would lead him down a path he never, ever saw coming. His research really zeroed in on those 19 years between 1948 and 1967. And what he found was kind of astonishing. In that incredibly short time, the Israeli Defense Force had transformed from basically nothing into a world-class army. To him, this seemed to support the very claims he was so desperately trying to disprove. And this discovery just completely flipped the script. His mission to debunk had now become a mission to understand. He started this whole new course of study, diving deep into the Bible's historical context, the life and parables of Jesus, and the really dense philosophy in texts like the Book of Romans. So what started out as this intellectual exercise, an attempt to win an argument, was now turning into something so much bigger. This investigation began to reshape not just his opinions, but the entire direction of his life. I mean, think about it. That single debate in 1977 spiraled into a lifetime of engagement. He went from being a serious student of the Bible to moving to the U.S., starting a home Bible study that actually grew into a church that he would pastor for 24 years, and then, finally, focusing on writing. All of it stemmed from that one intellectual challenge. And his own words, I think, sum it up perfectly. You can just feel the profound and unexpected nature of his journey. His intellectual quest to understand one thing led him to become something else entirely. The attempt to win an argument transformed into this lifelong path he never anticipated.
So what's the takeaway here? Well, it's a powerful story, isn't it? It's about how a rigorous, honest pursuit of truth can lead to a complete reversal of someone's worldview. It shows what can happen when you're willing to follow logic and evidence, no matter where it takes you. And it kind of leaves us with this fascinating question. What happens when we're willing to follow a single question all the way to its ultimate conclusion?